My name is Moosa Adnan. That's Moosa Salam. This is ReRooted, and here's what we have coming up next.
You know what's funny though with the headlines is that as Muslims, especially because we're on a Muslim platform, is that we're the first to say headlines are not what we need to read. Let's find out the story. So when brothers read headlines and they come to me, I'm just like, get out of my face, man. Don't come to me tomorrow and be talking about, the newspapers, look at it. I'm thinking, you really just read the headline. So there's some issues that a lot of people that I'll be dealing with, say from the Asian community, and the people will be saying, that's the elders. And I'll say, stop blaming the elders. Because we're talking about 28, 29-year-olds that have the same mentality and same mind frame. So I say, as much as you want to blame the elders, they built all these masjids that we're praying in. But every corner I want to pray on in East London, I can find a mosque that somebody from that community established for me to pray in. They done their part. I'm saying you as a community, as a second, what have you done for us? I'll wear my thobe, I'll go there in my white thobe. I'm comfortable in myself, I'm comfortable in my Islam. So like even when the title came out, Muslim man gives charity, a lot of guys that I know who are not Muslim, rappers, stuff like that, I was chatting to gigs, chatting to Suspect, guys that are prominent rappers because they support and donate. They're like, why are they putting Muslim man? Are they trying to throw you in it? And I'm like, don't worry about it.
I think it's a good thing they put.
I say it's a good, and
personally.
I say it's a good, and I don't really see the bad side in it because I'm Muslim and I'm comfortable.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam to that.
Akhi, Moosa, how's things, bro?
Alhamdulillah.
It feels very, very strange to say that. I've never said that to anyone before because we don't have a very common name. I don't know. Do you meet people often that have got the name Moosa?
Not really. You hear it in gatherings, but you don't have discussions with them. It's not someone you have a discussion with.
Because thinking about it, actually in the last month, I've met 3 Moosas other than myself. So it's been good. Alhamdulillah, it's been a good month. But generally speaking, you don't find a lot of people with that name. There's another name actually. Actually, we're not gonna go into that though, because it's gonna take us somewhere else here, and it might get a bit controversial. But anyway, I'll tell you afterwards though what I was gonna say. So, Akhi, you've been doing some really, really amazing work that I want to get straight into, inshallah. You've recently made the news. You've had news outlets contacting you. Some of the people may have seen some of the headlines out there, where basically I specifically saw in the Metro, it said something like Muslim man gives away hundreds of trainers to the homeless every single month. So you've basically been giving trainers away to homeless people, shoes, etc., every single month. For how long would you say that you've been doing it for?
Alhamdulillah. So Reso as a project started, I'll say, 2 years and a bit. It started off as Kick Poverty.
Nice.
It started off the back of working with Abu Bakr on different type of projects that he had doing, mainly the Spot project, and then just off the back of that, wanting to do something myself to give back. And then so we done some work initially, just collecting clothing, shoes, everything.
Nice.
Trying to send back to Africa, different places. Whereas the work we were doing before was in Gambia. This was to be more spread to go to different places, i.e. places, especially Uganda, where I'm from. And then off the back of that, the Grenfell fire happened. And then when that happened, everybody was distributing or giving out their stuff. So I just thought to myself, okay, this has happened, people are in need. So I went and took all my shoes and everything that I had in stock, and I kind of donated it to them. So then I was out of stock. And then the work that I was doing anyway with family and working, it's not an easy job. So I kind of took a little break from that, because obviously I got my own brand as well doing that. And then taking a break from that, I'm just sitting there thinking, hold on, because I would say about 12 months has gone past, and I've piled up trainers again, because I'm always buying trainers, you know what I'm saying? You know how it goes, we always buying different sneakers.
Yeah, trust me.
So then I get thinking to myself, what happened to my project? How did I let that kind of fall down? You know what I'm saying? Let me get back on it. Let me start giving out my shoes again. So I started giving that out again. And then we just built up to the process where we are now.
Allahu Akbar. So me, personally, as a previous... I actually had a problem. I think I genuinely had a problem, because I used to collect trainers, and I used to spend any money that I used to have basically on trainers. I had this one page on Twitter. I would go on now. The page is like just blown up. So everyone's going on this page. I can't buy nothing. But I remember in the beginning, they would post like links to like trainers on certain deals and whatnot. I used to always buy stuff. I think at one pair I had like at one time I had like 50 pairs.
Yeah, it happens.
I think for some people that's like nothing, but for
that's
me,
it's a lot.
I was doing it.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, I was doing it. So there were some shoes that I would interchange, and it always looks like you're wearing new shoes.
Of course.
That's a technique. So I guess the thing that a lot of people would probably be thinking, and especially there's a lot of things, you know, because I've spoken to people before getting you on the podcast about what you do, even within iERA and other people, and there's always one specific thing mentioned. But before that, I wanted to ask you, why shoes? Why trainers? Like, you could give homeless people food, you could give homeless people clothes. Why do you specifically focus on shoes?
For me, the shoe thing kind of happened out of, I wouldn't say it was, I would say out of comfortability, what I was comfortable with.
Okay.
So I would say first and foremost, I was getting a lot of donations, and when you get donations, people are just clearing out their houses first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes when people give towards charitable causes, it's also sometimes to make themselves feel better that they're doing something about the junk that they don't want. So they've already got things that are prepared for the bin, prepared for the rubbish, and then they think, oh, let me give it to charity.
Yeah.
But it's never on the aspects of giving charity from the things that they love or things that they don't want to give away, rather than saying to themselves, like, I've got some fresh bits but I've got too many of them, let me give from that. It's always, let me give the things that are about to go in the bin. So then you're getting clothing that's not fit for anyone, let alone, you know what I'm saying, it's not really fit. Nobody can make use of it. There's holes in it, it's tacky, it's this, is that, and then it's like, because they're homeless, you're going to give them that. And it's difficult because by the time you get to the point to understand that the clothing that you've been donated to is tacky, you've gone through like hours of sifting through the clothes and wasting your time. But with shoes, as soon as you open the bag, you can spot a good pair and a bad pair. Like straight away I can identify these are rubbish. But with clothing, you got to go through it. It's kind of, it's material.
I get it.
So the shirt might look good here, and then at the bottom, at the back, there's a rip in it.
There's a problem.
By the time you find that and you go through all of those type of products, it's taken a lot of time. With shoes, as soon as you pick them up, these are no good, put them to the side. So I started to realize, you know what, for me as an individual who's got family, working, my own project, I don't have time to be sitting around going through people's old clothing. So I said, let me stick to the shoes and let me work on the shoes. And then as soon as I've started doing the shoes, I've started to realize, first and foremost, by meeting homeless people, how important the shoes are to them, because they don't have a means of transport. Their means of transportation is shoes, is walking from A to B, is walking from Westminster to Newham, from Westminster to Southwark, because they might earn money by being in central London, but their spot where they sleep over at night could be in Waterloo. So they're travelling from one point to another point. And how many times have you seen a homeless person on a train, on a bus? You don't see them, you know what I'm saying, because they don't use those modes of transport. They're always walking from A to B. And if their shoes, which is their vehicle, their bus, their train, is their shoes, if they're not in the right condition and it's not comfortable, then a lot of things happen. They have difficulties and they have different diseases that arise from the feet, and it just makes life difficult for them. So a lot of the time I meet homeless people and their feet are swollen.
Yeah, I think this actually brings us like to a point that we can really, really benefit from. It's like being grateful for things. So like, when was the last time you was grateful for the shoes that you have on your feet?
Of course.
Because there's a lot of people I know for a fact watching now, and they'll think to themselves, with shoes, I've got many pairs of shoes, like myself, for example. I used to have many pairs of shoes. Still, alhamdulillah, something that I do try and put effort in, specifically speaking. And when you think about it, like one specific aspect I want to touch on that you just mentioned, which is diseases. Many of us, we've never had any problems with our feet like that. Of course. And I know for a fact the only problems I've ever had with my feet is when I went on Hajj and when I've done Umrah before.
And that's a lot of walking.
Exactly.
And that's it.
And this is what these people are doing.
This is what these people are doing every day.
I really, really like the fact that you've put in a lot of thought. It's clear that you've put in a lot of, like, there's a lot of wisdom behind even your reason for choosing why you're dealing with shoes. Now, there's a question I want to ask you. Have you ever had anyone come up to you and say, all right, cool, you want to give shoes, but why are you giving them designer shoes for?
Yeah, I think that's like a misconception in terms of, I think with news reports there's always buzzwords. Yeah. So there's buzzwords. One, Muslim man, that's a buzzword. Yeah. They didn't have to say that. Two, designer shoes. Okay. 3, quantity, hundreds of pairs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or they're worth thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
And I feel like, as someone who asks for shoes, I can't demand what shoes you give me. So for me, for those who do give designer shoes, it's like, for me, it's something that says a lot about them as an individual, in terms of what they're prepared to give from. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm saying I'm collecting shoes, my remit is that they're clean, you know, in a good condition, you know, ready to be worn, not something for the bin, and that they're just fit for use and fit for purpose. Name, whatever it's from, that's irrelevant, and that's irrelevant to the people that we're giving it to. So we just want clean and fit for purpose shoes, you know, not shoes that are ready for the bin and they haven't got too much wear left in them. So that being the case, when I get designer shoes, I have to now make a decision how to deal with the designer shoes. Do I give them to the homeless? But as ReSo, as a project and as a organization, how we're heading it, we have 3 different departments, and every department every department kind of dictates what type of shoes are given to which department. So example, we have the homeless, then we have the most at risk youth in gang, knife crime, drug violence, whatever. Then we have like street kids abroad. So places like, what we're looking to work with is like, we're working now with like Africa, Caribbean, South America. While we've chosen these locations, we think that these locations contribute a lot to the street culture and the street fashion. So when we look at a place like Jamaica and the impact it has on street culture and brands and the amount of money it makes for these brands, yet we have kids in those countries who are walking around bare feet, it doesn't really add up to me. The same with Africa and the same with South America. So we've chosen these, you know, 3 locations as a point to say, cool, with these brands that are donated to us, we're going to make it a means for us to give back to these kids, especially the street kids. So it's for us to now contact, you know, organizations that work with them and that we can liaise with and tell them how many pairs of shoes we can donate or not donate. You know what I'm saying? So I would say to myself, like, with the designer pairs, what we do is that, one, we put them on eBay. Yeah. We're trying to set up that system so it allows us to sell those shoes and then go back into a sports shop. So, for example, if someone donates to me a pair of Louis Vuitton trainers, I'm not going to give that to a homeless person because he's not in need of that name. But there's someone on eBay who's willing to pay £200 for a pair of trainers that are second hand that are worth £600. That £200 now can allow me to go and buy 2 or 3 pairs from a sports shop without mentioning any names. So that allows me to buy 2 or 3 pairs in sizes that I need, because yet again, sometimes I hit the streets and people need size 13s and 12s and I just ain't got them. So this is how that helps me. But in terms of designer shoes, I don't think if you go onto our social media platforms, you would find any picture that I've taken of someone who's received a pair that are designer.
Okay. I think that's a very, very good clarification, because I remember I was speaking to one brother and he was saying to me, yeah, akhi, but and I'll be honest with you, akhi, I didn't know this clarification you just gave. I didn't know it, isn't it? Yeah. So for me, I just went with the headline. So I thought, okay, the brother is giving design.
You know what's funny though, with the headlines is that as Muslims, especially because we're on a Muslim platform, is that we're the first to say headlines are not what we need to read. Let's find out the story. So when brothers read headlines and they come to me, I'm just like, get out of my face, man. Don't come to me to be talking about, the newspapers, look at it. I'm thinking, you really just read the headline.
But let me tell you what I done though, yeah? So what I done, this brother, we're talking about this, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, but akhi, but why designer shoes? So I defended you, akhi. So the way I defended you, I defended my fellow Moosa, basically what I said is, I said to him, akhi, maybe the brother's giving designer shoes because that's what he wants. He wants this. I want designer shoes. I want like Gucci's, and I want like, you know, even Nikes and whatnot. They're all designer, but in the picture there's like Nikes and stuff like that. So that's not necessarily like, because when you say designer, people think Fendi. Yeah,
they think Gucci, Italian, they think, French brands and all of that.
Exactly. So, but then the brother came back and said, yeah, but you could get them Skechers for this much. So then he said, it probably helps with the marketing. No, he didn't say that. He said, maybe it's because it's like a buzz thing, that it creates more of a buzz. So we're having this conversation of nothing, basically, because you just clarified, But so then I responded to him, I said, maybe that's why he's doing it. Maybe he's giving designer brands out there because he knows it's going to get a lot more people watching, a lot more eyes on it, and through a lot more eyes on it, he's going to get more shoes for more people.
Of course.
And he was like, that's a good point. So we was having this conversation.
Yeah, there's many ways to look at it. There's many ways to look at it. But one of the things is that I was having a discussion with a homeless lady. She just came out of prison. And she needed a pair of shoes, but the shoes I had for her wasn't her size. So I met her boyfriend, who was outside the Tesco. She was outside the train station. So he said, I've given him a pair of Adidas. And he's like, my missus is outside the train station on the left, Shoreditch. So I've gone out there. I've offered her a pair, but we don't have her sizes. And she's saying, I could easily take a size up. But that means someone else that's homeless is going to miss out on them who's really their size. This is how they're thinking as homeless individuals. So we're having a discussion. I'm telling them about the project and the things that's going on and the shoes that I'm gathering out. So we've got to the point where some people think you guys don't deserve designer shoes. And she says, what? So she's gone crazy. She's like, why? Is it because we're homeless, we only deserve, you know, the things that you guys don't want no more, the things you don't need? And she's like, I've been out of prison for like 2-3 weeks. The council haven't allocated for me a home, so I've been outside, you know, I'm sleeping out, it's cold, I'm begging for food. I feel like it's better that I was in prison, because when I was in prison, I had regular meals, it was warm, I had a bed to sleep in. But she goes, I know that that's not a route back for me. I got to stick it out. Because the fact that we have individuals like yourself who come out and give out trainers, and they're not just giving us any type of trainers, you're making sure that you're giving us a pair of trainers that are going to give us some, like, you know, they can last them up to like 6 months. So trainers, I think that would last us 12 months because of the amount of walking they do and the amount of sole that's going to come off. I think they get half the time that we would get out of it. But the fact that the more expensive the shoe is, and I'm not saying like they have to be designer shoes. I'm talking about if you give someone a good quality pair of Nikes.
Yeah, generally they're good quality.
They're good quality. They're going to last them longer. So why would you want to give someone who is homeless, who does a lot of walking, like a pair of shoes that cost £5 or £10, and they're not going to get nowhere? Are you going to be out here next week trying to replace them shoes? And what I find a lot of the time is that, like I was saying earlier, is that we have a lot of people who are not prepared to be managers and footballers themselves or players. You know, they just want to be commentators. There's a lot of people, when it's time for them to get on the pitch and put on the boots or sit in a dugout, they're not ready for it. But they don't mind being in the stands commentating about how the game is being played and what the manager should do or shouldn't do, or the pass the player should make or shouldn't. So I'll tell a lot of people, like, if you really want to make a difference, come with solutions where you're a part of it, where you're going to make things happen. Because you get a lot of the times where people say this and that, and it's irrelevant, because the type of work that we're doing isn't dependent on me. If people think that the cause isn't worthy and they stop giving shoes, then I can't give out shoes, because I'm not, where am I going to get these shoes from? Like, there's only so many shoes I can give out from my own. So it's like the fact that it's something which grows on a daily basis tells me that there's enough people out here who also feel like they have more than they need.
So Akhi, I want to ask you then, before we move on from this specific subject, what are some of the reactions you've had from, you know, these people when you're giving them shoes?
Yeah, I feel like I said again, it's like a lot of the time I met a lady. She could have been our mum's age, you know, mother's age. She could have been anyone's type of mother. She's inside Stratford shopping centre. She's sitting down on a chair like this in the cold, and this is how she's gonna go sleep. And I'm thinking to myself, this woman's most probably brought children into this world. You know, she has children. Allah knows where they are and what's their situation and why their mother is sat here in a shopping centre with a load of other homeless people. She didn't strike you as that homeless individual. She struck you as a person who has missed her rent, so she's been made homeless. You know, sometimes you go to like the homeless place and they'll be like, come back tomorrow. We can see you tomorrow. There's nothing that we can do for you today. They might do that to you 2 or 3 days before you have to. Because I remember when I was younger and I was trying to get a flat for myself, and you'd go to the homeless place and then they'll always tell you to come back. But this time here, we wasn't fully homeless. We still was at my parents' house, but you just wanted to get out. So you'd have to say then that you was homeless. So that's how it works. But she was an individual who you can tell she was proper homeless. She had a suitcase and her belongings with her. So she seemed like she was someone who went there, they told her no, come back. And she was sleeping out in the cold, and she was like, I'll go and interview in a couple of days. I need a pair of black shoes. And I was sitting here praying, thinking, how am I going to get black shoes? And I said, you've just came here and the first thing you've done is give me a pair of black shoes. And she's saying mentioning God. She's not Muslim, but she's saying this is from God and this is from that. And you sit to yourself and you think, subhanallah. So I could have went anywhere that day. I could have went central London. So I'm driving around thinking that I'm making these decisions. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's also days that I don't want to come out sometimes, I'm tired. But sometimes Allah will lift you up in your house, make you pack stuff that you don't even know why you're packing or why you've picked that shoe. Because I got a load of shoes. I'm just picking them randomly. I'm not saying let me take black, let me take the white. I'm just picking. So Allah is making me pick shoes that are ready for somebody,
and it's serving
and that somebody's already asked for them, and it's the same shoe size, and it's the same thing that they want, and I'm out here thinking I'm making random choices, but it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just making you do what you got to do and get you to where you got to get to. So when you see these things and you're Muslim and you have a way of contemplating about certain things, sometimes you just sit there and you think, this is deep. It's deeper than how we're actually, or how I'm actually seeing the situation, or how I found myself here. Because lots of times another guy was like, he was telling his friend, tell him I was just cussing my shoes, they got holes in it, they smell. Tell him how much I was saying I hate them and I need to do that. And now he's got a fresh pair of Arachis, he's excited. And they're young, some of these guys are young, so they know. So they'll be like, they're Jordans. And they'll be all making, and they'll be excited, and they'll be like walking with, because one thing shoes does is that shoes is different from any other garment that you wear. You could have a rundown pair of jeans, a rundown jacket. If you put on a fresh pair of trainers, your whole outfit is fresh again. It brings everything back to life. But if you've got a bad pair of shoes, it doesn't matter what you're wearing, your outfit's dead. You can have on the best hoodie, the best trousers. It's true. If your shoes are dead, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? It can't help you. So what these shoes do to a lot of these guys who might not have the best outfits on, as soon as they put them on, it gives them that, that self-esteem builds back up. They walk different, they feel different, they're more confident, especially the young people. Because being young and homeless and understanding how you're viewed and understanding how society looks like you, it's a lot of pressure. Like, can you imagine, like, with the social media pressures that we face and stuff like that, being a young person and people knowing that you're homeless and that you're begging? A lot of these young people, they go through the same issues that we go through. So when you find someone late 20s, early 30s, who knows that you and him are on the same level, and he knows that he should be in the situation that you're in, he should be helping people, but he's out on the street homeless, there's a lot of mental strains on that individual. So I feel like for me, when I give people shoes, the best thing that I love from it is the self-esteem that it gives them. That sense of, when they try them on and they walk, they do a little walk, say, these are me. When I see that, I'm like, because that's how I feel when I buy brand new pair of shoes. You put them on, you give it a little walk, you're like, this is me. To give that feeling to someone else and to see that
beautiful,
it brings a lot of joy.
It's beautiful, man. May Allah bless you, bro. And I pray that your project, goes amazing for you and it goes on to like bigger and newer heights, inshallah. Definitely, I think it's a really, really important thing, and I think it's very, very inspirational. The people that you focused on, because these are generally people. Look, we see homeless people every single day.
Of course,
we see homeless people every single day, and it's like they're almost seen as like the peasants.
They're invisible on the side, to some extent.
Yeah, they are. Because like, for example, when me personally, I'm in central London a lot because of my university is there. Like when I'm walking down, even it happens to me, like you're walking through Tottenham Court Road or like Goodge Street and you see people on the left and right. It's normal to you. It's not like if they were there and they weren't there, it's the same thing to you.
Of course.
And that sense of humanity goes down, and this is one of the things that Islam came with.
Of course.
When you see the Prophet ﷺ, as Allah says in the Quran about him, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, that you are not sent except as a mercy
100%.
for the world, not for homeless people, not for Muslims.
That's it.
In the Quran, it's amazing because when Allah speaks about different people in the Quran, He uses different words.
Of course.
Ya ayyuhan nas, ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu,
That's it.
ya ayyuhal, whoever Allah's talking to. And over here, He says, Allah doesn't even use the word nas, people. He says for everyone.
Yeah, that's it.
This is like a mercy. And when you look at concepts within Islam, when Islam first came, akhi, those are the kind of people that it liberated.
Yeah, 100%.
It didn't liberate the elites.
100%.
The elites of Mecca were people that were arrogant, they were haughty, they thought they had it. It liberated people like Bilal ibn Rabah, people who were slaves.
Of course.
They were possibly worse than homeless people.
Yeah,
they had no choice but to serve other people. So when you're doing something like that and you're empowering people, akhi, it can be translated as a sunnah. what you
Yeah,
do.
I feel like one of the biggest problems when I want to give back, especially coming from a revert perspective, is that I always find to myself, how many non-Muslims can say that they had a drug problem, an alcohol problem,
Yeah,
they were homeless,
yeah,
they had a misuse problem,
yeah,
and they were helped by a Muslim organization
yeah.
to come off that. Because there's so many
common.
Muslims who can say I had a drug problem, an alcohol problem, I was homeless,
But
and non-Muslims helped me get out of
that's
that.
crazy.
But how many non-Muslims can say that about us? Even though we're the biggest
That's crazy.
charity donor in the whole of the United Kingdom, we raise the most money for charity.
Yeah.
You know, we give the most charity. Even though we're in, especially Ramadan, we raise some crazy amounts of money in Ramadan. We have our Prime Minister who come out and say that the Muslim community are the biggest charity donating community in the country and blah, blah, blah. But how much of that money, I think there's a ridiculous amount of, like, every year in the month of Ramadan, we can build an Emirates Stadium with the amount of money that's raised as a community, as a group. We could build an Emirates Stadium every year. And that stadium, that facility, that organization, that infrastructure would belong to Muslims. We can build one of them every year in this country that can facilitate for everyone. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that, do we have an Emirates Stadium? Do we have that in this country? Do we have something that big, you know, giving back to the wider community? Do we have that impact locally, to non-Muslims? Because one of the ways to give dawah is not just by telling people this is Islam, this is just talking and being theoretical. One of the reasons and the best way to give dawah is being practical.
It's your actions,
it's to show people. So I feel like if we had a neighbour, Lucy, David, John, who can be like, see the news reports, Muslims, and be like, hold on, when my son was addicted to heroin, it was Ahmed and Ali and them one in their organisations that got him off it. Yeah. It was If they have that with them, we don't have to go and tell them Islam doesn't teach that, Islam, because they've had practical and examples and interactions with Muslims,
bro. Instead,
that have been positive,
bro. Instead, what we end up doing?
Yeah,
we end up doing the opposite. Like, I'll give you an example. Once, I went for Jummah. I'd say a couple months ago. It wasn't like a long time ago. It was like recent. And I'm there for Jummah. When you're going Jummah, you just want to go Jummah. You want to pray, and then maybe you want to eat food afterwards. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it is. Yeah. So I go Jummah. I pray. As I'm coming out, bro, this is now me. I'm coming out of the masjid. I take a right. I still remember how it was. I'm walking down. And I'm not the type of person, akhi, to get involved in other people's business. I'm honestly not. Like, if I see unnecessarily. But I saw something that triggered me next level. I saw these Muslims who were Asian, who looked, they were Pakistani, it looked like to me, or where I'm from, and they were speaking to, I can say it.
Yeah, I thought you was Bangladesh. I was gonna say you're in trouble.
No, I can't say that. If I said that, there's problems. Yeah. But so they were arguing with this lady, and this lady lived in this house. This brother has gone and parked in front of this lady's drive, which he cannot park there. He's gone and parked in front of this lady's drive just to go and pray Jummah. So he's inconvenienced this lady to go and pray Jummah. The lady's upset, and she's not like an old lady. She was like this like Italian type. Maybe she's in her 30s or something. And the brother, here's the thing: the brother's getting rude to her. I couldn't take it, man.
Yeah,
I couldn't take it.
These are the things that are just. It's problematic.
I stepped in, and in front of her, I had a go at the brother. I said, "You are mad." I said, "What do you think you're doing?"
Come on.
I said, "You can't park here. This is her, And he's looking at me shocked. I'm like, "This is," and then she walks off now because she's like upset, and she just walks off. She shuts her door, and then that's when I put it to him on a level, and I said to him, "Akhi, listen to me, bro. Yeah, I work in media." This is what I said to him, because I do. Yeah, I said to him, "I work in media, and I know what goes on in media." I said to him, "Bro, it's people like yourself, what you're doing right now, that makes people like this, when they see stuff on the news, they see, oh, Muslim done this, there's a bomber here, there's this, that, they think of people like you."
Of course.
And they think, people like this are antisocial. Yeah. They're against the UK.
I'm Muslim, and if he done that to me, I don't care if you went Jummah anywhere, you can't park in my driveway that I have a car, I have a family, crazy. And your excuse is I went Jummah. Even as a Muslim, you wouldn't accept that.
So then I thought, now damage has been done. This guy has clearly given this lady a perception, And Akhi, imagine this lady lives next door to the masjid. People are coming here every week. And every time she sees it, she's going to think, look at these Muslims just disturbing us for the Jummah. What Jummah? Like, what is this? What is this nonsense they're doing? Yeah, that's what she's going to think. Course, you're praying, but she's going to think you're doing nonsense.
Yeah, of course.
So I took it upon myself to go and knock on this lady's door. And she opened the door. And I said, listen, on behalf of my community, I apologize for what these legends are doing. Yeah,
it's good you said that.
I said, because they're not supposed to be doing that. Obviously, I didn't say that these legends are doing whatever, but I said, they're not supposed to be doing that. These guys are acting in a certain way, yeah. They're not supposed to be blocking your drive. This is not what our religion teaches us to do, yeah. And basically, then the brother actually understood. He felt bad. He actually came and he apologized to her as well as a result of that. And alhamdulillah, it was done. And I said to him, Akhi, in future, please don't ever do this again.
Yeah, of course.
Don't ever do this again. And this is it, bro. I mean, it's things like this. Just you, bro, giving someone shoes and someone seeing it.
Of course, because sometimes I'll wear my thobe, I'll go there in my white thobe. I'm comfortable in myself. I'm comfortable in my Islam. So like, even when the title came out, Muslim man gives charity, a lot of guys that I know who are not Muslim, rappers, stuff like that, I was chatting to gigs, chatting to Suspect, guys that are prominent rappers because they support and donate. They're like, why are they putting Muslim man? Are they trying to throw you in it? And I'm like, don't worry about it.
I think it's a good thing they put.
I say it's a good, and
personally.
I say because I say it's a good, and I don't really see the bad side in it because I'm Muslim. I'm comfortable in my description. Muslim. They could have said, because some people are saying, they could have said black man, they could have said white, they could have said all of that. So but I'm comfortable in any description you want to give me because that comes out. But for the Muslim, for me, I was just like, it's a buzzword. It's the reason it's got all these clicks. It's the reason it's got people talking. But if you look at the non-Muslims who follow Resole and who are regular donors, they wanted to know as well because, and I feel like it shows you why we're on different fences. Because as far as the non-Muslims are concerned, they didn't think it was negative because they believe Muslims are bad. They were like, no, we're happy with you being Muslim. They were saying that we believe it's negative because all we hear in the media is negative connotations about you. So they're thinking now they want to put you in that bracket. Yeah. So it shows you that they've seen enough negative stories that when they hear the word Muslim, they automatically, their default setting is to be fearful and to be afraid for that person. So they were more concerned for me, not because I'm Muslim, but they were thinking, now your project's going to go downhill. This is what they want to do to you. So it shows that the perception that we have in the media is a worrying one, and also is that we have different perceptions because the Muslims now, they're happy. They're thinking, no, it's a positive story. Yeah. It's showing Islam in a positive light. And the non-Muslims are saying, that's what you guys think.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, it had me thinking like...
The way I saw it is, I saw it like, obviously, and I'm as a Muslim, I saw it from my own lens. But I saw it as something good. Because I thought that, and I would never see it as anything bad.
Yeah, we're Muslim.
Because, but Akhi, it's like, bro... Whenever that headline is used, you won't see Muslim man done anything good. You see Muslim man done a madness here. Of course. He done this, he done that. So now that there's a bit of a contrast, it's good. Akhi, though, I wanna move on from this subject because problem. I think you're much not this is a small thing, but there's more about you than this. So while I was doing research, you're someone, as you mentioned, some names, gigs, etc. Some of these guys, you know them personally. People that do music, some people that are very, very big in music now. They've done like very mainstream things, and you actually used to rap with some of these people, and you've been vocal about this. You were actually involved in gang life with some of these people as well, and you're known. You're someone that was known for that because you was active on the streets. So. The way I said that, I'm sure some people are going to find it funny. So early on in your life, you were involved in this sort of stuff. There's a discussion that's been going on for a long time. Been going on for a long time, and I want to get your opinion on this because I saw, you might even know these, you probably know these people personally, so I won't mention who they were, but I saw these rappers, and they're not drill rappers, but they're like, they're rappers, UK rappers. And they came on this show, and on this show they basically spoke about how nonsensical it is to link music with crimes that are taking place in the UK. They spoke about it like, this is nonsense. How can people even make that link? And they're speaking about it from the perspective of rappers. They're saying these rappers, they was living a certain life, and now they're making music. but they're not talking about it from the perspective of the people, the masses.
Yeah.
Do you feel like music has a direct influence on what people do? Like, for example, stabbings and gang violence that's happening. Do you feel
I feel like, from an Islamic standpoint, and just reality is that every type of, there's ways that we take in information from sound, visual, you know, so anything that you visualize or you see and hear has an impact on you, good or bad.
100%, yeah.
So it's not just music in terms of I want to pick it out and I'll just say that, okay, music has an impact and that's the only thing, but just everything in life that we see, depending on the message, you know what I'm saying? So that's why you find that if someone's listening to a love song, that's the impact they're going to get. Yeah. They're going to be romantic, hype, Casanova thing, because that's the impact it's giving them, positive or negative. So some people say, what's bad about that? He's going back home to his wife, he's singing her songs, he's the man in the house, she loves it when he's back home, he's nice. They're going to say, what's bad about that? So I feel like, from an Islamic point of view, it's not whether it's a good or bad vibe, is it halal, is it haram? Like, there ain't no ifs or buts. Is it good, is it bad? You know what I'm saying? It's like alcohol. Is there benefits from it? Yeah, there are benefits. Is it haram? Yeah, it is, because there's negatives from it. So for me, when it comes to music, from an Islamic standpoint, someone who used to do music, if I ever indulged in a discussion, can it be good, can it be bad, I'll be finished. Because I will always make those excuses of how good it can be, because it's something that pulls to your desires, isn't it? So if it's something that I desire, I'm always going to be looking at that positive vibe of it.
Akhi, correct me if I'm wrong, because look, I don't, like, I only know people that were involved in stuff like that and whatnot, and I dibble-dabble, like, you know the way normal kids dibble-dabble, I wasn't involved in no gangs and stuff like that. Growing up in London, that's the culture though, so you're going to go through the culture whether you're Asian, wherever you come from. From my perspective, I find it so alarming and shocking that some of these rappers are so vocal about the fact that we can basically talk about spraying man's head top, shanking this guy here, dipping this guy. I don't know, there's new terms that they use like body counts and whatnot. I got this many bodies and whatnot. And they're literally saying it so explicitly. And they think there's like this invisible barrier that's going to go in people's ears and it's not going to affect them at all. And the way in which I like to link it is, let's link it to like a Muslim saying stuff like that now. So let's say someone like me now. Someone like me coming out with my beard, and someone who looks like me, who's Asian, Muslim, you know, the kind of stereotypical image that people have in their minds. He comes out and I make a track and I'm talking about I want to bomb places. Let's say I do that, yeah? Obviously, there's not something that we believe in as Muslims. No, this is something that's completely against Islam. But let's say some Muslim comes out and says stuff like that. Not me. Some Muslim comes out and says stuff like that, yeah? What are people going to say?
Yeah,
he's inciting violence, he's doing this, he's doing that.
Because I feel like when it comes to these type of things, like music and all of that, I feel like because there's always going to be an exception to the rule. There's always going to be those white kids from Oxford, Cambridge, who's been listening to gangster rap their whole lives, and they've never thought of shanking or stabbing, and they're always going to be brought to the forefront to say, well, it didn't affect me, and that's that same thing that I told you get with alcohol, where when I drink, I don't do this, and I don't act like this, and I don't, so I feel like it's difficult, but I feel like with music, as someone that used to be involved in it, music has genres, just like film does, and I feel like with music, there's horror music, horror rap, like, who can say the worst things? Who can say the most vile things? So that's why you'll get a kid from Oxford who's never lived that life, but his whole verse in a song would be about, I shot this man and I shot that, because as an actor, he's chosen to act in a horror film. That's the films that he likes. He's like, I'm not on them romantic films, so I'm not going to come and talk about I got these girls and that girls. I want to be a horror actor. I want to be in horror films. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to write. So it's like, it's a competition. So sometimes I'll see guys, say I'm going to do a workshop with some youth. I want to know who's in, who's out, who's the rapper in now, who's everyone looking up to. You go through some of their verses, you go through some of their comments. You'll see people underneath, without saying no names, that will say, yo, bro, on your last track you said you killed 30 people. This week now you're saying you killed 50. Which one was it, 30 or 50? Because The guy that's rapping, he ain't killed 30 people. He didn't kill 50. But he's giving you horror rap. He just wants to, every time he raps, he wants to be the baddest man on the planet.
But how do these guys do that in the studio?
What's that?
Like this is one thing I've always thought about. Like I know for a fact, like there's rappers I've heard say that. Yeah, I've shot 30 guys. Yeah. How do you say that in the studio when all of your friends are outside and they know,
yeah, because obviously it's entertainment. That's what I'm saying. It's not that real. I came from an era where it was real, where when it was time to leave music, it was an easy choice because we rapped about our experiences and what we were doing. We never rapped from a standpoint of what somebody else done. So that's why sometimes the best rappers were the most feared people in the streets, and they didn't have the best rapping skills, but we could sit back and be like, yeah, he done that. We can vouch for what he's saying on the track. So when you hear him talking, it adds to his credibility, because I could be from South London, heard of a kid from North London who's been doing a lot of crazy stuff on the street, and then when I hear him rap, those rumors or those things that we've heard about him saying is true. So we're saying, yeah, that's gangster, that's real. Whereas today, you can be a rapper and it's become an industry. You don't really have to live that life.
I'm sure you saw the campaign that I think the government took it upon themselves to try and tackle knife crime. And I definitely want to speak about knife crime with you as someone who came from that life and you've seen it yourself and you know people who are probably still inside it. They done this like they put they put in Molly's, I think, which is like a very famous chicken shop that's based in South London. They got different branches in the South.
I saw that.
And they put like on the chicken boxes, they put about stabbing people and stuff like that. Don't do it and whatnot. They basically put deterrent things on there. And one of the brothers that we know very well, Dili Hussein. He actually done a podcast with Ardads, which is one of the rappers, and he was talking about what kind of silly like thing is that, like silly campaign is that.
He was saying that ads are the brother.
Ardads was saying that. He was saying that this is like such a silly campaign. That why this is stereotypical and it's like offensive. So I want to ask you, Akhi, as someone who knows about this stuff, what is the way to tackle knife crime, if there is a way?
I think, first and foremost, speaking to people like Raymond Charles and Craig Pickney, people who are, I would say, are experts in this field, they always come from a standpoint of trauma, mental health. You know, as for them, it's a health issue. They connect violence to mental health, trauma, and stuff like that. So, say it's something that needs to be tackled via the NHS, like anything else. It has to be something that is pumped government. There has to be money pumped by the government into a medical sense frame to tackle the issue. It's not enough now to just say that these kids, you know, just wake up like this. They go through trauma, and trauma is something that can happen to you 10 years after the event. There's people that were involved, example, in a car accident, and straight after the accident, they're right, everything's cool. 5 years later, something triggers them, and bang, they can't get in cars no more. The trauma has only taken effect 5 years after the incident. Yeah. So they could be someone who was young, his friend got stabbed, he didn't think much of it. He gets to a certain age, has a panic attack, everything comes back. Now he's traumatized. Everywhere he goes, he needs to have a knife. He's not taking checks, and people are not getting to the root causes of some of these issues, and you know, some of the effects that it's having on the young kids. It's too easy. Like, I feel like to blame music for some of the things that happens within society. I think it's too easy of a get out clause. Because I said to myself today, if we just stop music and we banned it,
there will still be knife crime.
Exactly.
There will still be knife crime. However, I mean, looking at it from a perspective, from a London perspective, which we both have, of course, don't you think that it plays a part?
It plays a part. But I feel like there's a lot that needs to be, because I think that these issues, example, now when I do workshops, I no longer want to talk to children. I just want to talk to parents, because I feel like they call me in. I went to one and they called me in. The children were there. I spoke to them 10-15 minutes. I was meant to give them 45 minutes. Like within 15 minutes of speaking to the youth, I realized, no, I told the people that put an organization, let me go downstairs and talk to the parents. Someone else take over this. I ain't got, because these children can only do so much without the support of their parents. You can tell the children A, B, C, and D. If mum and dad can't spot the signs of a child going down a certain path, or why are they doing certain things, or some of the symptoms, or some of the reasons, some of the causes, if they can't sympathize and empathize with children who are raised in this country where you were raised somewhere else on a different continent with a different culture, different if they can't identify. So I feel like some of the issues and some of the things that we need to tackle some of the issues at hand are having to be fed through parents. So I feel like as a parent, for me, you know, I wouldn't blame any type of genre or any type of culture on why my children are doing what they're doing. Because it's so important, the amount of time that you spend, the investment. There's nothing that, you know, grows without it being nourished and looked after and watering. You gotta kind of water your children. You gotta make sure that you're around them. And it's not enough to just be around them, but also to understand them and understanding the changes. Like, let me say one thing. This mobile phone has changed a lot since it came out, or when I had it when I was younger, because I never thought it would get to a point where my son would know how to use a phone better than me. Just the apps. There's some apps I don't get them. You know, and we're deemed to be people who are still young, relatively cool, understand. But they're just some apps that are out now. They're just beyond me. I'm like, what's all this about? Ping, pong, pong, ping. You do this, it does that. You record tunes, you dance. And I'm like, how? How do you even... So I'm thinking, if someone, not to say I'm anybody like myself, can have a phone that my son can have and still be able to use devices on that phone that I don't understand, how about for those who are older than us, who are not in tune?
I mean, like, I can speak from an Asian background. Alhamdulillah, I have the blessing that my parents are young. However, I've got friends who are actually involved in like gang stuff, drug dealing and stuff like that. Like, not saying I've got friends, rather I know people that do this.
Yeah, of course.
Because that's not the people that I surround myself around, but I know people that do this
100%.
Or who have done this in the past. And one commonality that I find is that their parents, often you find this a lot, that their parents are completely out of touch.
Of course.
Because their parents were that first generation that came from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, wherever. So their parents don't like the...
Or a second, now what we're finding, or the second generation who still chose not to
educate their children,
and interact. So they're second generation. Sometimes, example, there's some issues. I live in Tower Hamlets, so there's some issues that a lot of people that will be dealing with, say from the Asian community, and the people will be saying, "Oh, that's the elders," and I say, stop blaming the elders, because we're talking about 28, 29-year-olds that have the same mentality and same mind frame. True, So where are we getting to this quick to blame the elders? I say, as much as you want to blame the elders, they built all these masjids that we're praying in. They done their part. They came to this country. There wasn't no mosque. They established the masjids, whether we agree, we don't agree. But every corner I want to pray on in East London, I can find a mosque that somebody from that community established for me to pray in. They done their part. I'm saying, you as a community, as a second, what have you done for us?
I think as a parent, you need to ask yourself the question that if my kid was involved in problems, would he feel comfortable enough to even come to me?
How? And this is important. Are you the first protocol? Are you the first, I've messed up, let me call dad? I always tell my son, if you get in trouble in school, call me before they do. I say, I need to hear your narrative of the situation and your story before I hear anyone else. Because I said, depending on the first story that I hear, I'm a human being, I'm going to be biased. If the first thing I hear is the teacher saying, oh, your son was involved in that, I'm going to be, here we go again. If the first thing I hear is, dad, this happened at school, and this is what they think. Now, when that teacher calls me, I have a different perspective of what took place. They're like, oh, sir, we're calling you, your son was there, something happened at school, your son was in an incident. Have you spoken to your son? Oh, yeah, I've spoken to my son today. That was the first thing he told me about. And I'm already up to date with anything. So they can't pull, it allows me to have not only my son's back, but it also allows me to have a footing to kind of protect him, and to also to build a bond between the two of us, because he knows that if I tell dad the truth, he's gonna stand with me on the basis of that. Because we came from a place where I'm just going home thinking, I can't tell mum anything, I'm just gonna get whipped. and she's just gonna beat me for being bad just because the teacher said something. You just feel that pressure. So I've tried to eliminate that.
Alhamdulillah, that my dad, alhamdulillah, is like it's a privilege from Allah. I don't want the people to say Allahumma barak about this, but like my dad is someone that I can tell anything. I can tell my dad anything. Like when I say anything, if I've done the craziest thing in the world, I can tell my dad. Like,
that's important. It's important.
And like it's because like there's this comfort, there's this trust. I can tell him. Do you get it? And I know he's gonna tell me something that's gonna give me my solution. I trust him like that. Or he's gonna tell me something that is gonna be a solution for me, and I can actually work on this. You see what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And a lot of people, they don't have that with their parents.
That, and that's what I'm saying. So if you didn't, so example, you're young, you've been, so obviously as any young person growing up in the UK, you've had your ups and downs as a teenager, as a child, whatever, and you had that. Yeah. So imagine you didn't have that.
Yeah, it's a problem.
How would you like? You know what I'm saying? Allah knows best. But so if you think about the amount of children who, example, one of the aspects I can give is like growing up in South London, I would have beef, and kids who would want to stab me or do something to those likes would see me with my mum and be like, "Hello, auntie, do you need help with the shopping, auntie?" My mum's like, okay, how are you then? Because crazy. It's your local, it's the local culture, kids in the area. It's the people that you know. So they're being nice to your mum. This time your mum doesn't know. This is the kid that's got you under pressure. And you can't tell your mum anything.
So you actually had circumstances like that?
Because that's normal. Because the people that you have beef with, they only live 2 blocks away from you. Yeah. You most probably went to the same primary school. You go to the same church on Sunday. I'm at the front row of my family. You're at the back row with your family. We've got an issue between our boys. We've got beef. But when we see each other's parents, I've had issues where there's kids that I got problems with. And when I see them, I want to do something to them. But when I see their mum, I'm like, "Hello, auntie. You okay, auntie?" But when I see a son, it's a different story. And that's because of the relationships we have with our parents. So example, mum's like, "Michael, can you go," them times it was Safeway, "Can you go Safeway and buy some milk?" I know it's a straight road. I don't have to take too many lefts and rights. But for my safety, a 10-minute trip can be a 20-minute trip. I'm not going through that block, because I'm not going through there and there. So you have to go this way, that way. So sometimes, example, one thing that I was telling parents is that your children might refuse to do things for you, like go to the shops, like go to the market to buy you meat. That's not because they're being disobedient. That's because they know they might not come back from that. But they're still not comfortable enough to tell you that. But so they're more comfortable just saying, "Mum, I can't do it." "No, Mum, I'm not going to do it." They find it more comfortable to kind of disobey you, be disobedient by saying, "I'm not going to do it," then be like, "Mum, I'm not going to do it because I got beef with this kid here, and if they see me, they're going to do this, they're going to do it." So because it's just that simple, sending your kid to the shop and not knowing his surroundings, not understanding. Like for me, I wouldn't send my son or my daughters anything to the shop if they didn't want to go, because I've been there, done that. So I would say that maybe there's something there. Then I can just say, "Okay, cool, sit down, let me go." Then I can say to myself, how am I going to now find a way to have this conversation with them?
Yeah.
So then I'll be like, "What's going on? You're right. How's everyone in the area? How's everything? How's the kids? Blah, blah." Just trying to probe to see if we can have this discussion where he can be like, "You know what, I had a fight the other day with this kid." But it's not, "Go to the shop. I told you to go. Why didn't you go?" Because some of us came from that. Your parents are just at you because they don't understand the jungle that you're in.
It's very important, that trust that the parent can build. Because I know we're going to have some parents listening to this, that trust, or people that are going to be parents, that the parent can build with the child. I think it's enough, like to take the child through all of life, man.
Of course.
Like just that backbone there, having that person to fall back on, that person that you trust, that person that you can look up to, that person that you trust your parents' judgment, their sense of even Islam. A lot of our parents that you trust their sense of Islam, you trust their sense of just everything, the understanding. And the only way that you're gonna get your kid to understand, to think that you're on the same level, is by making that effort. If you don't make that effort, your kid's just gonna think, "What does my mom know? She just knows how to make food."
These things are not gonna fix themselves. These relationships are not gonna bond themselves. These are important relationships that you got to build through different things, through activities, through just spending time, through finding things. Example, finding things that your children like that you also like, you find in common. These things are important. But like I said, it's difficult. I don't want to be too hard on the parents and the older generation, but example, now it's different. Like me and my mum can banter over football. She supports Chelsea, like I support Man United. So yesterday we had banter. She'll message me and says, "Are you ready for tonight's beatings?" And when we talk about it, she goes, "Yeah, you know what's going to happen." So we can have that at this age now, because as she's integrated into, my mum wasn't born here. She came here early, I'll say mid-20s. You know what I'm saying? So she's had to integrate into that community though. She's to the point where she's taken on a football club. You know what I'm saying? That's the level of integration. And I feel like those generations of people, that's the levels they have to get to. Because guess what? Your children like football. They like marvels. They like all of these things. You have to take it to that level. So when I've seen that she's done that to that level as a woman and someone coming from that culture, for me, it's a great sense of understanding that she's also tried to make those connections with us, you know what I mean, and my siblings. So it's good, it's important.
Akhi, Moosa, bro, may Allah bless you.
And you,
it's been an absolute, honestly, privilege speaking to you.
Well,
because we've spoken about some topics that I think will resonate with a lot of people. And it's good to get to speak to people that actually, you know, a lot of the time you get people, and this is something that we were speaking about before the podcast, you get people talking about things. Why are you even talking about this? Do you get it? Like,
it's true.
You just have an opinion, you know what I mean? So it was a privilege to speak to you about this as a father yourself and whatnot. And inshallah, we pray that Allah puts immense barakah in all of your projects.
And you.
And I look forward to seeing where Resoul goes, man.
Yeah, man, we're working hard, which we're just follow us on our journey. We're working hard, it's important. And we're just trying to stay busy to the best of our ability, inshallah, and just to represent. Like I said, for me, one of the things before we leave this is that I feel like for me it's very important as a representation for our community, because I feel like, again, most of the work that we do is we preach to the converted.
100%, yeah.
Most of the time we're just, people are already converted, I'm already Muslim, so what are you telling me for? It's like, how about that group of people over there who are not Muslim? And coming from the lifestyle that I came from, there's a big world and culture, especially the black culture and the black community, who don't know much about Islam, but know about me. I know about me as an individual, and I feel like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put me in a position where I can introduce a lot of people to Islam and why we do what we do. And that was just like from the story you said yourself, you see in the metro, you know, Muslim man, etc., etc. That community, the black community, have taken it on like, we don't know about you. Where have you been all this time? Where I've been all this time is locked away preaching to the converted. And I haven't really had much time to tell you guys anything. But in this chapter of my life, like brothers like myself, like Muslim Bilal, Abu Bakr and things like that, we don't only have a responsibility in terms of being examples for the young Muslim men, but we have a responsibility to be examples to the young black men in the black community, because sadly they don't have too many examples to look up to other than he's a rapper, he's this. So the messages that I'm getting from non-Muslims as well is that I'm just happy that you're in a position that I can show my son someone that he looks like, and someone that he aspires to. Obviously, you got the Nike on, the Adidas, these type of stuff. Their kids don't want to wear that. So she's saying she's not only seeing someone who looks like him, but also someone who's doing something other than music. You're not on there because this guy's done this record or this, that is charity. Basically. Yeah, so these things are important for me, and it's important for me to kind of, not everyone has that position, because not everybody was born or raised in that culture or that community. So I feel like I always tell people like yourself, there's things that you can do for the young Asian boys that I just can't do. I'll never understand. There's so many topics, like me and Abu Bakr from Roadside to Islam, we've been asked to talk about. Like, one thing people used to say to us, I'm Asian, I want to get married to someone, my parents won't let me. Can you guys talk about arranged marriages? Can you guys talk about honor killings? Can you guys? And I said to us, we're not fit to do that. One, we've never experienced it. Two, we're not in a culture that's ever pushed it on us. And I remember seeing a documentary or a program about arranged marriages, and it was the first time I saw the different angles and issues that take place. So to be short, the father didn't want his daughter to marry this boy, but because the father had a business within the community that the community depended upon, if he didn't marry his daughter to this boy, the community will stop supporting this man, and then his business will come to an end, his family, his house, blah, blah, blah. So he's trying to explain to his daughter, I don't even want this, but the social pressure I'm on, you got to take this one for the family. And I'm thinking that I don't want to be that man. That's a lot to deal with, because we know how money is a problem already. So now when you're faced with someone telling you, if you don't marry your daughter to me, I'm going to make the whole community not buy from you, who am I now to come online and start talking about arranged marriage, and I don't even understand the levels of issues that are going on here, because that man there, he's with his daughter. He's like, you know what, babes, I agree with you. That guy, he was like, when I was watching the documentary, he was like saying, that boy is a waste man. He's nothing. Like, you shouldn't be marrying him. But the pressures is on, because can you understand having a lifelong family business that is threatened with the closure because your daughter don't want to marry someone? So you're saying to your daughter, I've taken hits for this family. I've done jobs that I don't want. Obviously, it's easy to say. But I said, I don't want to be in that man's position, because it's difficult, because I can say it from here, but would I? A business that's bringing you in £200,000 a year, it's feeding hundreds of family members back home, it's helping orphans back home, it's doing all of that stuff, or your daughter marries this boy. He's not the worst, but it's not someone that she wants. What do you do? It's easy for me to come as a revert, it's wrong, it's haram. I said, I'm not fit for that. There's a lot of things that have to take place, and it has to come from a point of understanding. And this is why I'll always tell people, be careful what you talk on, because it's easy for people to talk about different cultures and other people's difficulties and their truths, and we won't have the same level of mercy as somebody else who is from that culture that will come in and be like, you know what, it's a sensitive topic. Something like that's not sensitive to me because it doesn't happen to me, so I'll talk as reckless as possible. For example, some people talk about Rastafarians, a nation of Islam, recklessly, because they don't have an uncle who's from the nation that they're trying to convert. I do, so I want to talk sensitive. I want to be like, uncle, you know Malcolm, he used to be like that. This other guy, bid'ah, haram, da-da-da. So it's like, it's different levels of sensitivity depending on how close it is to you as an individual. So that being the case, people like myself that are more sensitive to some topics that are connected to the black community, but also have a strong sense of Islam, we have to do this type of stuff, and we have to put ourselves to the forefront, and we have to do that also with Islam, because when people talk to me, I'm like, I've got family members who are not Muslim. I remember getting on the train after 7/7, and I remember this Asian guy got on the train, and he had a rucksack, and I wasn't Muslim, and I was thinking to myself, I thought I was a bad man. I said, today I'm going to make the news for putting down this youth. That's how I thought. I was thinking to myself, today, because I guessed myself, because I was under the pressure. I believed the hype. So I was sitting on the train. He was innocent. He ain't done nothing. He just sat there. But obviously, I've seen 7/7. They got back. So I'm thinking to myself, I'll beg you try something. Watch me brock you up. That's how I was thinking, because I was ignorant. So like, fast forward 6-7 months, I've become Muslim. I think back at that incident. I was thinking, rah, I drank the Kool-Aid.
But did anything go down?
Nothing happened. He was innocent. He's just a normal kid.
I thought he just jumped in.
He's a normal kid guy. But he's jumped on the train, the tube. I just remember these kids getting chased in the tube stations and blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, don't tell me this guy's going to try and pull a stunt. But I was thinking, if that's how I was thinking, someone from the streets who's not an average person, what do you think the average person was thinking? It's a lot of pressure. So when I hear non-Muslims come from different angles, I get it. I was there. It's a lot of pressure. But at the same time, it's easy for me now to be like, Muslims, we don't believe in that. But listen, I'll tell you for free. When I was at Muslims, I believe Muslims believe in that. And I'm not that type of person. I was someone that was like, I was down to earth. You know, I looked into certain things. But yet, the pressure of someone who looked like a Muslim, he might even be a Muslim, you know what I'm saying, and had a rucksack, was enough for me to sit up straight on the tube like, okay, is it going to go down? Let me get ready, so I'm not going to get caught slipping, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's difficult, man. We got to represent in media and do what we got to do, but not to keep you. It's been a pleasure for you to have me today. Bless you, bro.
It's been excellent, man.
Jazakallah for inviting me, man.
Yeah, man. So, brothers and sisters, on that note, this has been episode with Brother Moosa Salam. Alhamdulillah. I hope all of you benefited from it, inshallah. If you do have any suggestions for us, leave them in the comment section down below. And don't forget to listen to ReRooted on all of the major podcast platforms. That is SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, I think they're called. I'm not a Google person, so Apple Podcasts. And take care of yourselves. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace.